Hello and welcome back. Okay, so today we'll be looking into dieting, to diet or not to diet, and which diets are the best, if any at all. So grab a pen, grab a notepad, take some notes and see if we can get to the bottom of this. Okay, so how do diets work? There is a common misconception that a diet means starving yourself. I get a lot of people say, oh, I'm dieting, I'm really low calorie, or I'm eating specific foods and avoiding other foods. There are also hundreds of different diets, and it seems that nearly every other week there is a new diet or a new food or a new superfood that everyone must eat. But with so much contradicting information out there, how do you separate fact from fiction? So let's take a look. Okay, so all diets work in exactly the same way and exactly the same principle. Their main principle from all diets is to get you in a calorie deficit, whether it be high fat, low fat, high carb, high protein, ketogenic, Slimming World and Weight Watchers even. They all work in the same way and with the same principle to get you to eat in that calorie deficit. Slimming World and Weight Watchers use points and sins as an easy way for people to track their eating and remain in the calorie deficit, the same way that Atkins diet uses high protein foods to reduce the calorie dense foods in carbs and fats that are commonly overconsumed. So what diet shall I pick, I hear you ask? Simple. The diet you should choose is the one that works for you, the one you are familiar with. You need to keep the foods that you enjoy eating, and you need to be able to fit it in your day from day-to-day activities and things that are convenient to your lifestyle. Not all diets will fit the same person, and not all people like the same foods, so you need to pick a diet that's really sort of for you and suits you and one that you enjoy. Remember, we need to make your diet sustainable, so you need to pick foods that you actually like eating. The key, however, is to not overconsume and stay in that golden calorie deficit zone. So here are my top tips on how to plan your diet, avoid overeating and structure your diet to remain in that deficit. Okie dokie, how to plan your week. So the first thing you need to think about is your habits. These are things you do subconsciously. And once we identify the things you do subconsciously and the foods you eat subconsciously, we can make you aware of them. And once we're aware of them, we can try and change them and do something about them. The three things that are quite interesting to look at are location, occasion, and situation. So location, where are you? So that could be things like, where do you eat for lunch? So every day you go to work, where do you get your lunch from? If you go to Pret a Manger and you go there every week, we want to keep that habit the same. So we don't want to change it too much, otherwise it will feel unfamiliar. So say for instance you do go there, instead of getting your usual meal, you look for a slightly healthier alternative, or an alternative that's slightly lower in calories. Occasion, so these are things that happen that you associate with certain foods. So for instance, a good example is going to the cinema. Whenever you go to the cinema, you always get an ice blast and popcorn. So those are the foods that you associate with the cinema. And you do that subconsciously because that's just what the normal thing to do is. So now you know the occasion that you get popcorn and an ice blast in, you can change it. So you can say, well, when I go to the cinema, instead of an ice blast, I'm going to get a soft drink, or instead of popcorn, I'm going to get a different snack that's healthier and less and lower in calories. Situation. So this could be going out for dinner, any events you go to, and the eating habits around that situation. It could also be certain things in life that have happened. So if you have a bad day, you get in that situation where you binge eat because you're feeling down. And again, once you've identified it and once you become aware of it, you can change those subconscious habits, and you can start to change the relationships you have with food. The first thing that I think is a good thing to do is identify what's called hyperpalatable foods. So these are any foods that basically you really enjoy. So hyperpalatable means they're really tasty, so they're very palatable, so you like the taste of them. These foods are generally the foods that are overconsumed. So these are like your chocolates, your ice cream, your cakes, the sort of foods that once you pick up you can't put down. And once you've identified them, you can change that subconscious habit, that behavior. So usually for me it's biscuits. As soon as I open a pack of biscuits, I know I'm going to finish the pack. But now once you become aware of that, you know that you need to change it, and it becomes conscious, which means you can control it. The next thing, sorry, that you need to be able to do is keep it familiar. The worst thing you could do with your diet is change everything so that it's unfamiliar. Stick with foods that you like. Stick with eating habits that you like. We've mentioned before about how you change the eating habits slightly, but don't change them completely. If it's unfamiliar, it's usually unenjoyable. Which brings me on to my next point. You need to be able to enjoy the foods you're eating. We'll look at in the next slide what happens when you don't enjoy the foods. But for now, just remember that you need to enjoy eating, you need to enjoy food, you need to have a positive relationship with food, otherwise it won't work. And the next point is sustainability. You need to be able to keep up this diet. You see many people go on crash diets, really low calorie restricted diets, and it's not sustainable. They don't keep it up. They put all the weight back on that they've put off because they just cannot keep it up. So let's look at in the next slide some more dieting tips and a couple of examples of some of the biggest mistakes people usually make when they start dieting. Okie dokie, so let's look at the biggest mistake people generally make when they start dieting. So we've got two people here. We're going to take a look at person A first. So this person, they're on a very low calorie diet. So they're restricting their diet to minimal calories per day. So they're starving themselves. This is what most people think dieting is. You know, you're on a diet, you're starving yourself, you're not eating any food, you're on a low calorie diet. So yeah, they're hungry, their blood glucose is low, their body is screaming at them to eat, they need food, but they're resisting that urge, they're fighting it, so it's tough. They miss food. They've cut out all of the foods they like, so they've cut out their chocolates, their cakes completely. So they're not eating them at all, so they miss food. Their productivity goes down because they're on such a low calorie diet. Their energy levels decrease. They've got less energy to do other things. Your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that decreases. So that's anything like walking the dog, doing the washing, going to work. So that goes down. So as a result, you're less productive. You've got low productivity at work. And in addition to that, you've got no energy to train. So you turn up at our training sessions and you have a rubbish session. You can't put the effort you usually put into training because you feel slow, you feel lethargic, you've not got that energy that you used to. And as a result, Friday comes around, you've had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, low calories, no favourite treats, no foods whatsoever. You feel the need to binge. So you get this weekend binge. You feel like you need to reward yourself. You've had a really tough week, you've managed to go the whole week without eating any cake, so you go on a binge, and generally when people binge they eat more calories than they have in the whole week in one day. So that's person A. Person B, let's look at person B. So they're on a moderate calorie diet, so they're not starving themselves. They're eating a normal amount of calories per day. They're still in a deficit, but they haven't cut out food completely. They don't miss food. They've managed to slot in their favourite foods periodically. So they're still having their biscuits, they're still having their cakes. They're not over-consuming because they're aware that they're the high palatable foods, and they're aware that they need to not over-consume them. But they're still managing to get them in. They've got high productivity levels. Their blood glucose is fine. They've got high productivity, they've got energy, they're feeling energized. If anything, they feel a little bit guilty that they're not doing this generic sort of misconception of a diet where you have to starve yourself. So they have great training sessions. They go there, they feel energized, they've got loads of energy to burn, they smash their training sessions, they come out feeling really good about themselves. Their mental attitude is a lot better, and as a result they burn more calories in their training. And they get to the weekend and they don't feel the need to binge. So they don't feel the need to go out and eat excessive amounts because they don't feel like that. Okay, so if we look at the calorie differences, so this person, say they eat 1,000 calories a day, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, and they get to the weekend and then they eat 6,000. So there's their binge. So in total they've got a calorie intake of 17,000 calories for the week. You get person B. They eat 2,000 calories a day. Okay, so they eat 2,000 calories a day, Monday to Friday, but when they get to the weekend, they don't have that weekend binge, so they carry on with their 2,000 calories a day. And if you look at their total, 14,000 calories. So there is a 3,000 calorie difference between person A and person B. And look at person B. They're not starving, they don't miss food, they've got high productivity, they've got great training. And they've still managed to get a 3,000 calorie deficit compared to the person A who's starving, miss food, they're not productive at work, they have poor training sessions, and they go on a weekend binge at the weekend. So that is probably the biggest mistake I find people make. They go too low calorie too soon and end up binging, and it's not sustainable and it's unsustainable. Okay, so the key to sustainability. First thing you need to do is continue eating the foods that you like. If you switch your diet and overhaul it completely and choose foods that you don't like, you're not going to keep it up. You're not going to enjoy it. Same with your eating habits. If you completely change the way you eat and when you eat, it's not going to work into your life. So if you grab lunch on the go at work, you need to keep doing that, but remember that you need to make healthier choices for that. But don't overhaul your whole eating habits. Treats, make sure that you slot in periodically your hyper palatable foods, so the foods that you really enjoy. Don't just get rid of them completely from your diet. So keep them in there. So you don't have major cravings at the weekend, or you feel the need to reward yourself. That leads me on to weekend discipline. Don't binge on the weekends. So hopefully you would have structured your diet in a way that you don't feel the need to binge, or you don't feel the need to reward yourself at the end of the week and undo all that hard work. So have the weekend discipline. Lastly, planning and preparation. This is quite a big one for me. If you know your calorie limits each day, you can plan your foods, you can prepare them. I'm not talking about food prep, spending Sunday evenings cooking loads of different healthy meals and putting them into Tupperware. No one's going to do that. No one can be bothered to do that. You might not even be a good cook, so I'm not going to force you guys to do that because you won't keep it up. It's not sustainable. No one can live life eating out of Tupperware for the whole of their life. What I'm talking about is being prepared, planning your food in advance, knowing that if you don't have time to go to your certain restaurant or food shop when you're at work, making sure you have an alternative that's healthy so you don't get fast food choices, and just generally being in control of what you eat and being disciplined. So there are my keys to sustainability. At the end of the day, if we can sustain the diet over a long period of time, then you'll be able to keep it up. Okay, so use MyFitnessPal. Get it to work out your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, and your daily calorie intake. It does all that for you, so that's the main reason you can use it for, that I recommend. It works out how many calories you need to eat per day. It also logs food for you, so all you need to do is scan the barcode or search the foods. It's got all of the foods on there, and it logs it for you. And it's it's a really good tool and aid for you to keep track of what you're eating and know roughly when and where you are close to your calorie limit, and how much you can eat and how much you need to reduce eating. And finally, just to summarize this session, number one, make it sustainable. You've got to be able to keep it up for life. Number two, make it enjoyable. This is a contributing factor to sustainability. Number three, make it familiar. Don't overhaul your whole diet in the first week. You've got to keep it familiar. And four, probably the most important rule, make it a calorie deficit diet. So make sure you are in the calorie deficit. So hopefully you would have learned a bit from this training. If you have any questions, pop it in the chat below and I'll get back to you straight away. Cool, awesome. See you at the next session.